High school was never meant to be a battlefield. But for someone like me, Samantha Torres, it felt like walking through a war zone every day. I wasn't unpopular. Exactly. I was just invisible. I didn't have a crowd, a clique, or even a best friend. I spent my lunch breaks in the computer lab and my weekends coding side projects that no one ever cared to ask about. My wardrobe was a rotation of thrifted hoodies, beat-up sneakers, and jeans that were more functional than fashionable. People didn't bully me because they didn't notice me. And sometimes, I thought that was better than being seen and hated. But everything changed the day she noticed me. Haley Kingston, the head cheerleader. The girl whose last name might as well have been royalty at Maple Ridge High. She was beautiful, magnetic, and terrifying. Her perfect smile could make people crumble or rise, depending on where you stood in her world. And up until that day, I didn't stand anywhere near it. It started in second period calculus. Mr. Wheeler passed out our midterm scores, and I noticed Haley glancing at mine. 99? She scoffed under her breath. Guess some of us don't have lives. I blinked. She had never said a word to me before. I forced a half smile and looked away, but something about her tone sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't jealousy. It was something colder, like she had just found a new toy to break. That afternoon, as I walked past the cheerleaders in the hallway, I heard my name for the first time come out of Haley's mouth in front of everyone. Hey Samantha, she called, her voice sickeningly sweet. You're good at computers, right? I stopped, caught off guard. Yeah, I guess. She smiled wider, as if I'd walked into a trap I hadn't seen. Perfect. I need help setting up a digital slideshow for prom committee. You know, fancy transitions, music, stuff I don't have time for. My brain screamed say no, but my mouth betrayed me. Sure, I can help. And just like that, I was roped in. For the next week, I sat in the back of the gym while Haley and her squad planned prom, occasionally tossing me USBs or email links for files to add. They didn't talk to me, didn't include me in conversations, and barely acknowledged I existed. I was just the tech girl, doing her invisible work like always. But I didn't mind. I even started to think maybe this was my chance to finally be seen. Maybe I get a small shout out at prom, or at least stop being completely forgotten. I should have known better. On the Friday before prom, I walked into the gym early to finalize the slideshow. But when I plugged in the flash drive Haley had given me the day before, I froze. There, mixed between photos of class memories and prom posters, was a folder labeled Confidential Property of Administration. I clicked it, and my blood went cold. Inside were scans of private documents, test answers, teacher evaluations, even disciplinary records. It was the kind of stuff that no student should ever have access to. The kind of files you'd only find if someone had hacked the school system. I yanked the drive out immediately. That night, I barely slept. My mind spiraled. Had I accidentally found something illegal? Why was this stuff on a cheerleader's flash drive? Did Haley even know it was there? I decided to go to the principal on Monday. But I didn't make it that far. Because Monday morning, I was called into the office. Samantha, Principal Keene said, his face stern. We need to talk about a very serious accusation. I looked around, confused. Okay, we have reason to believe that you've been accessing the school's private server. Someone anonymously sent us screenshots of sensitive files stored on your personal laptop. These files were found in your school locker, on a USB drive labeled with your name. I blinked. My mouth went dry. What? That's not mine. I didn't. But he cut me off. We've already begun a formal investigation. You'll be suspended until further notice. The world collapsed beneath me. Suspended. For hacking the school. For something I didn't do. The flash drive. The one Haley gave me. She set me up. I left the office in shock, the hallways blurring as people whispered and stared. For the first time in my life, I was seen, but not as a person. As a criminal. I sat on the curb outside the school, gripping my backpack with shaking hands. Everything I'd worked for, college applications, my spotless record, my reputation, it was all gone. Destroyed. By someone who smiled to my face while holding a knife behind her back. But as I sat there, tears threatening to spill, something inside me shifted. A spark. A fire. I wasn't going down without a fight. Haley Kingston thought I was invisible. That no one would believe a girl like me over someone like her. But she underestimated the wrong person. Because what she didn't know, what no one at Maple Ridge High knew, was that I wasn't just some quiet computer nerd. I was a hacker. And I was about to use every ounce of my skill to expose the truth. Prom was in 2 weeks. And by the time that glittery night rolled around, Haley Kingston's perfect little world would come crashing down. Right in front of everyone who once laughed at me. I didn't leave my room for 2 days. The word suspension hung over me like a brand. My phone lit up with notifications I refused to check, texts, DMs, emails, some from classmates I barely knew. People who'd never spoken to me suddenly had opinions. I imagined the group chats. Did you hear about Samantha Torres? Guess the quiet ones really are the creepiest. No wonder she was always in the computer lab. My mom was silent the first day, just pacing the living room, whispering things like, "There has to be some mistake." But by the second night, she knocked on my door and sat on the edge of my bed. "I want to believe you," she said gently, "but they found the files on your laptop." My throat tightened. "I didn't do it, Mom. I swear." "I know. But proving that is going to be hard. Especially against someone like her." She didn't have to say Haley's name. We both knew. Haley Kingston's father was a board member at the school. Her mom organized every PTA fundraiser. Her smile was plastered on every school flyer, local magazine cover, and student council campaign poster. And me? I was the weird tech girl with no social life, no friends, and apparently, no credibility. I waited until my mom had gone to bed before I booted up my computer. If they were going to destroy me with a lie, I'd make sure the truth was louder. I started digging. I accessed every local school network protocol I could without triggering alerts. The school had upgraded their security over the past year, probably thanks to funding from parents like Haley's. But they still hadn't changed their administrator password. Amateurs. Within an hour, I found the logs. Every file that gets opened, moved, copied, it's all recorded. Most people don't know that. Or they assume no one checks. But I knew exactly where to look. And sure enough, I found a copy log for the exact documents I'd supposedly stolen. Only, it wasn't me. The files had first been accessed 3 days before I even received the flash drive from Haley. And the IP address used to copy them? Not mine. Not even close. I traced it. It was a device registered to a school-issued laptop. Haley Kingston's laptop. She'd used the school server to copy the confidential documents to her own device, and then transferred them to a USB. The same USB she gave to me. I wasn't just framed. I was used. Like a chess piece in a game I never wanted to play. I screenshotted everything. Created a secure folder. Backed it up to cloud storage, external drives, everything. But even with all the proof in the world, I knew I couldn't just walk back into school and say, "Surprise. I've exposed the golden girl." No one would listen. Not unless I made them. And if there was one event that guaranteed the entire school would be watching, it was prom. That's when the idea took root, wild, dangerous, and just crazy enough to work. I'd already been asked to design the slideshow. I still had access to the planning files. I even had admin privileges to the AV booth, which was synced to the school's projector system. I could hijack the show. But first, I needed more than screenshots. I needed the kind of dirt that would force people to see who Haley Kingston really was. So I started investigating. Her social media was a goldmine. Not the curated posts, but the metadata. I used old photos she deleted, ones still cached in browser history and buried in tagged archives. Then I searched usernames tied to her private email. One led to an anonymous Reddit account, another to a password dump from a hacked social app that had leaked user data months ago. And that's when I found it. An old private Twitter account. Just 5 followers. But the posts? They were horrifying. Screenshots of cruel text exchanges about other students. Plans to leak someone's breakup online for laughs. Photoshopped memes making fun of a girl's body. Comments like, "No one will ever believe she didn't send those pics, lol." The tweets were old, some over a year. But the time-stamped receipts were still there. And worst of all, one of the posts linked to a revenge site that exposed intimate photos of a classmate who dropped out mysteriously last fall. A girl named Maya Patel. I remembered her. Smart, kind, quiet. She vanished after rumors started about inappropriate photos. Everyone thought she transferred schools. But now I knew. Haley wasn't just a mean girl. She was dangerous. And she was going to pay. The next few days were a blur. While suspended, I pretended to be resting, but I was working nonstop. I wrote custom code to disguise file names, created dummy media folders, and even designed a decoy slideshow with prom photos and music, so if anyone checked early, it would seem normal. But underneath it, I built something else entirely. A timeline. A digital confession. Receipts, texts, screenshots, and clips. I narrated parts using AI voice overlays and structured it like a story, one that started with a lie and ended with the truth. Her truth. The final scene? An apology from Maya, recorded months ago on a public mental health support forum. Her voice was raw and trembling. I wish people knew the truth. But girls like Haley, they always win. Not this time. Prom was 2 days away. I wore the outfit I'd bought months ago, one I never thought I'd get to wear. Black satin, minimal makeup, hair curled just enough to feel special. Not for Haley. Not for anyone else. But for me. I showed up just after 7 p.m. The gym was already packed with lights, glitter, and laughter. No one noticed me at first. Just another face in the crowd. But when the lights dimmed and the slideshow started, everyone noticed me. The first slides were normal. Happy. Senior class memories. Dancing. Laughter. And then, glitch. The music stopped. The screen blinked. Then a new voice echoed across the gym. Sometimes, the people we admire most are hiding the darkest secrets. Gasps. Whispers. Then, the first screenshot. Haley's secret Twitter. A string of tweets filled with cruelty. Then Maya's voice. And then, silence. The gym was frozen. Even the DJ didn't move. I stepped forward, heart pounding. People turned to look. There I was, no longer invisible. Just me. Standing in the wreckage of everything Haley had built. And I wasn't scared. Because for the first time in my life, they finally saw me. For about 10 full seconds, no one said anything. No one even breathed. Then, gasps. Whispers. Shocked murmurs rippling like a wave across the gym floor as the slideshow continued its brutal unraveling. Haley Kingston, queen of the senior class, glowing under the gym's fairy lights in her glittering prom dress, now stood frozen at the center of the room like a fallen statue. Her perfect curls trembled. Her mouth opened slightly, as if she might protest, scream, deny, anything, but no sound came out. The screen showed more. A screenshot of the leaked student records folder. Her school login credentials. A timestamped download log with her IP address. Then text between her and another cheerleader. Haley, I'm gonna pin this on that freak girl. No one will believe her anyway. Unknown. OMG Savage. What if she finds out? Haley? LOL, like she even try. Each slide hit like a punch. Students turned to look at her. People who'd once worshipped the ground she walked on. Even her own cheer squad started shifting uncomfortably. Some stepped back. One girl whispered, "Did you actually do this?" Haley shook her head in tiny, frantic movements. No. This was edited. It's fake. She's framing me. But no one believed her. Not after the voiceover came back. This story is not about revenge. It's about truth. And giving a voice to those who were silenced by power, popularity, and privilege. Then the screen faded to black. A moment of silence. Then one last video played. Maya Patel's message. It was raw, unpolished, recorded on a webcam in low light, with tears still fresh on her cheeks. To anyone who's ever been humiliated, isolated, or lied about, please know that your story matters. I couldn't fight back then. But maybe someone else can now. Maybe they already have. The lights came back on. And just like that, it was over. No music. No cheers. Just stunned silence. And then someone clapped. One person. Then another. Then more. I stood near the back, not sure what to do. My legs felt like jelly. I hadn't planned for what would happen after the reveal. I never thought this far ahead. But then Principal Keene entered the gym. His face was pale and tight with confusion. His eyes scanned the room, then landed on the projection screen still paused on the final frame. Maya Patel. Class of 2023. You were never forgotten. He walked up to the microphone. Students, please return to your tables. Prom is over. And Miss Kingston. His voice shifted into something cold. Please come with me. Haley's eyes went wide. No. This is a prank. She hacked the system. She's the criminal. But no one moved. No one helped her. Even her boyfriend, Tyler Gray, captain of the football team, just stared at her like she was someone he didn't recognize. I said, come with me. Principal Keene repeated, and this time she obeyed. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her heels clicked like thunder as she walked across the gym floor, past all the people who once cheered her name. Gone. Just like that. The queen had fallen. Outside the gym, the air felt like freedom. I sat on a bench near the parking lot, clutching my coat and trying to process everything. My heart was still racing. I couldn't believe it. I actually did it. Someone sat beside me. I turned. It was Tyler. He didn't say anything for a second. Then he whispered, was all of that real? I nodded. Every word. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. I had no idea. She said that girl left because her parents moved. I looked down. Everyone believed her lies. Why wouldn't you? He was quiet for a while. Then, I'm sorry. I didn't expect that. For what? I asked cautiously. For laughing that time in the hallway. Freshman year. You dropped your books and she made a joke. I laughed with her. He looked at the ground. It wasn't funny. But I laughed anyway. I didn't know what to say. The wound was old. But hearing that now, it meant more than I realized. Thanks, I whispered. He stood up, then looked back at me. You're brave, Samantha. Really brave. And then he walked away. By Monday morning, everything had changed. Haley was suspended pending expulsion and under investigation for cybercrimes. The administration made a formal apology to Maya Patel, who agreed to speak to the school board via Zoom. Her voice, once erased, was finally heard. The rumor mill exploded for days, but for once, I wasn't the target. In fact, people actually talked to me. Not out of pity, not just because they were curious, but because they respected me. Even Mr. Wheeler stopped me in the hall to say, that took guts, Samantha. I'm proud of you. Still, part of me didn't know what to do with this new attention. I'd spent so long being invisible, being safe, hiding behind code and keyboards. Now I was seen, and not just for what I exposed, but for who I was. I found myself smiling more, walking with my head higher, talking to people in class. I even joined the AV club officially, and Mr. Grant, our media teacher, asked if I'd consider leading next year's student film project. I said yes. But the best part? I got a letter. A handwritten one. It arrived in a small white envelope addressed to me with no return name. I opened it and read, Samantha, I don't know if you'll ever truly understand what you did for me, but you gave me a voice when I had none. You didn't just speak up, you shouted for me. And now I feel like I can breathe again. Thank you. I cried when I read it, not out of sadness, but relief. Because for the first time in my life, I knew I'd made a difference. And that meant everything. The Monday after prom was the first time I walked into school without bracing myself for whispers or stares. But this time, when people looked at me, it wasn't judgment or ridicule. It was acknowledgement. It felt surreal. As I passed through the front doors, I spotted a small poster pinned to the school bulletin board. It was a digital illustration someone had made of a girl in a hoodie holding a laptop, standing tall against a shadowy cheerleader crown silhouette. Across the bottom, it read, Truth Hacker. I blinked, stunned. Someone had turned me into a school legend. By third period, 3 different people had asked to sit with me at lunch. I politely declined. Not because I didn't want friends, but because I still needed time to process everything. I had spent years living in the background. Now I was suddenly being treated like the main character in someone else's script. I wasn't used to the attention, but part of me didn't hate it. That afternoon, I met with Principal Keene. He sat me down in his office, his expression more sincere than I'd ever seen it. Samantha, before anything else, I owe you an apology, he said. My eyebrows lifted. You do? He nodded. When the anonymous report came in accusing you of hacking, I should have questioned it more carefully. I let bias guide my decision. It's okay, I said automatically, though deep down it hadn't been. No, he replied firmly. It's not. I'm supposed to protect students. And I failed you. He paused before continuing. The district reviewed your findings. Haley Kingston's access logs matched everything in your presentation. They also confirmed that Maya Patel was targeted by online harassment linked directly to Haley's private accounts. I stayed quiet, letting it sink in. We'll be making policy changes, he added. Better oversight, better protections. I was also asked to give you this. He slid a letter across the desk. It had a gold seal, the Regional Academic Ethics Board. I opened it. My eyes widened as I read. They had reviewed my case and not only cleared my record, but were awarding me the Student Integrity and Advocacy Honor, a title given to only one student per year in the state. It came with a $5,000 scholarship. I looked up, blinking fast. This is real? As real as it gets, Principal Keene said, smiling. You turned a punishment into something powerful. You turned pain into action. It was the first time I'd ever seen him smile like that. But while the school's perspective on me had changed, not everyone was thrilled. Some of Haley's former friends kept their distance. A few whispered when I passed by, saying I humiliated her on purpose, that I loved the attention, that I should have just gone to the principal quietly. But they didn't understand. I tried to go through the proper channels. I wanted to keep it quiet. But I knew how the system worked. People like Haley never fell unless they were exposed loudly. Besides, this was never about attention. It was about justice. And it was about Maya. I reached out to her through the support forum she had posted on. I wasn't sure she'd reply. But after a day, she did. Her message was short but warm. Hey, Samantha. I saw the prom video. I cried. I laughed. I felt like I finally mattered again. I'm thinking of coming back next year. Not to Maple Ridge, too many memories, but to school, to life. Thank you for everything. Maya. I stared at her message for a long time. Some battles you fight for yourself. Others you fight for the people who couldn't fight back when it mattered. This had been both. 1 week later, something else happened. I was in the computer lab during free period when Mrs. Dawson, our media and journalism teacher, walked in holding a camera and a notepad. "Samantha," she said, "how would you feel about being interviewed?" I blinked. "For what?" "For you. For what you did. The school paper is doing a special feature on students who made a difference this year. And the yearbook team wants to include a quote from you on the last page." I hesitated. What would I even say? Mrs. Dawson smiled kindly. "Something only you could." I thought about it that night, sitting in my room, laptop in my lap, trying to figure out how to sum up months of chaos, pain, betrayal, and courage into just a few words. Then, I typed this. "Sometimes, you have to break the silence to break the cycle. Don't let fear keep you from telling the truth, even if your voice shakes." It was published the next week, right beneath a photo of me standing in the AV booth on prom night. For once, I didn't mind being seen. As senior year wrapped up, a sense of closure began to settle in. Haley had officially been expelled. Her family tried to fight it legally, but too much evidence was stacked against her. Rumor was, they moved out of town. No one knew for sure, and no one seemed to miss her. The whisper stopped. The stare softened. Some people even started calling me Sam instead of Samantha, something casual, friendly, like we'd always known each other. I never became super popular. That was never the goal. But I became respected. And for a girl who used to hide behind monitors and blend into walls, that felt like more than enough. On the last day of school, Tyler approached me at my locker. He held out a small box. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," he said. Inside was a silver USB drive with a blue ribbon tied around it. Engraved on the side were the words, "Truth greater than fear." I laughed. "Where did you get this?" "I made it," he said with a sheepish grin. "I'm not exactly tech savvy, but I figured you'd appreciate it more than anyone." I smiled, genuinely. "I do." He looked down at his shoes. "Also, I was wondering if you maybe wanted to hang out sometime this summer?" I blinked. "Like, as friends?" He shrugged, suddenly nervous. "Or maybe more. If you wanted." For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt light. I felt like a girl who had survived something dark and was finally stepping into the sun. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." Graduation came faster than I expected. Just weeks before, I had been sitting on the edge of suspension, watching my future slip away. Now I stood at the top of my class, cap and gown freshly ironed, my name announced in front of parents, teachers, and peers who finally knew who I was, not because of a scandal, but because I had fought back. The auditorium was packed. Everyone's families cheering, balloons bobbing in the air, camera flashes going off like strobe lights. When Principal King handed me my diploma, he didn't just shake my hand. He gave me a firm nod, the kind of nod that said, "You changed something here. You mattered." And as I walked off the stage, I saw my mom in the third row, hands clasped to her chest, eyes shining. She mouthed one word to me: proud. That moment undid something in me. Something that had been wound too tight for too long. The years of hiding, of second guessing, of feeling like I wasn't enough, it all loosened. I smiled, for real. After graduation, things were different. But not in a movie ending kind of way. I didn't suddenly become best friends with the entire school. I didn't go viral or get a movie deal. Life didn't magically become perfect. But it became mine. I enrolled in a summer coding boot camp at a nearby college, fully paid for by the scholarship. I spent my afternoons in cozy coffee shops with my laptop, creating ethical hacking software and helping other students protect their digital privacy. People started calling me for help, not to take advantage of me, but because they trusted me. Tyler and I hung out more. It started slow. Movie nights, ice cream runs, walks around town where we actually talked about real things. He opened up about the pressure of always being the guy everyone expected him to be. I told him about the nights I'd sit alone wondering if anyone would ever hear me. We listened to each other. It was new and good. One night, we sat on the hood of his car, parked under the stars, and he asked me, if you could go back, would you change anything? I thought for a long time. I'd change how long I stayed quiet. I said softly, not for them. For me. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. Then he reached out and gently took my hand. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And I let him. A few weeks later, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. At first, I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but then I saw the subject line. Subject: a story like yours shouldn't go untold. It was from a young journalist interning at a tech publication. She had seen the prom video. Somehow it had leaked online in pieces, and she wanted to interview me for an article about youth activism, cyberbullying, and digital courage. I almost said no. I didn't want to relive it all. But then I thought about Maya, about the other girls who might still be too scared to speak, about anyone out there living in someone else's shadow, thinking their voice wasn't strong enough. So I said yes. The article went viral in a quiet, powerful way. It wasn't sensationalized. It was honest, vulnerable. The comments were filled with messages from students who had experienced something similar. I thought I was alone. You made me feel seen. I'm building the courage to speak up too. And that was everything. Not fame, not revenge. Impact. On the night before college orientation, I sat on the floor of my almost empty room, surrounded by half-packed boxes and old notebooks filled with code I'd scribbled in the margins of class assignments. I found the flash drive Tyler gave me, Truth Greater Than Fear, and smiled. I opened a fresh file. Typed out a message I knew I'd want to remember. You were never just background noise. You were the signal they ignored. Speak up. Even if your voice cracks. They'll hear you someday. And when they do, it'll be unforgettable. I saved it. Closed the laptop. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of the future. Because I knew now, I wasn't just some quiet, overlooked girl behind a screen. I was someone who fought back. Someone who turned silence into power. Someone who changed everything.